When it comes to the NBA playoffs, the Boston Celtics always expect to be one of the final teams standing. This organization made it to 6 of the last 8 Eastern Conference Finals entering the 2024-25 season, and they entered the postseason this season as a 61-win 2 seed and the defending NBA champions. Entering the playoffs as the defending champs this year, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown understood the challenge of making the NBA Finals would be different. For the first time in a while, the Celtics were the hunted instead of the hunters, and rival teams played them a lot tougher as a result. As a result, Boston ended up being the ones who limped into the playoffs, dealing with injury concerns. Aside from Kristaps Porzingis continuing to deal with a mystery illness that severely limited his production and availability late in the season, Brown entered the playoffs with a knee injury Boston wouldn't provide much clarity on. In the first round against the Orlando Magic, Jayson Tatum suffered a wrist injury, and Jrue Holiday injured his hamstring. While the Celtics won this series in 5 games, wear and tear was beginning to catch up to them. The New York Knicks, a team built last summer to solely compete against Boston with athleticism and length on the wing, took the fight to the banged-up CS by winning the first 2 games of the series in TD Garden. Although the Celtics won Game 3 in Madison Square Garden, they suffered more than a loss in Game 4. Tatum, who was having his best game of the playoffs with 42 points, suffered a non-contact right leg injury and was later diagnosed with a torn Achilles. Without their leader and star forward, Boston fell to New York in 6 games. When Brad Stevens decided to go all in for a championship by bringing in Derek White, Holiday, and Porzingis to pair with his 2 all-star wings, he understood that this team wouldn't be financially stable for long. After signing Brown to a 5-year, $285 million contract extension last offseason, followed by a 5-year, $314 million extension for Tatum, the 2024-25 season seemed like Boston's last chance to win a title before having to make key roster decisions. Now that Tatum is out indefinitely, and it was recently revealed that Brown had been playing through a partially torn meniscus, the Celtics appear ready to face the consequences of the league's CBA and apron rules. The era of dynasties is no more unless the Oklahoma City Thunder have something to say about that. Teams are no longer able to do what the Golden State Warriors did in 2016 by signing Kevin Durant, or what the Celtics accomplished before their title in 2024 by adding Holiday and Porzingis to their already exceptionally high payroll. Stevens understands this is the name of the game. He carefully weighed the risk and reward with owner WYC Grousbeck to maximize this organization's championship potential, and he delivered with their recent title. Now comes the hard part of the job entering the summer, as keeping Brown, Tatum, Holiday, White, and Porzingis together no longer seems like a viable option. Not only are the Celtics prepared to take a step back given Tatum's Achilles injury, but Grousbeck agreed to sell the team for $6.1 billion to a group led by Bill Chisholm. Where the Celtics go from here is the major question, as teams around the league are beginning to carefully monitor Stevens' next steps leading up to the draft. The Celtics' future is still bright. No matter what decisions Stevens and the front office make to revamp this roster, Tatum is still 27 and Brown is 28. These two are the foundation of Boston's success now and moving forward. Even though NBA fans love to stir the pot by creating their own trade proposals and ideas, neither Tatum nor Brown are on their way out of Boston entering the summer. League sources confirmed to Clutch Points as for the decisions to be made, Stevens is focused on continuing to find ways to reinvent the Celtics' championship success. Just because Tatum is injured and likely to be out through the 2026 All-Star break doesn't mean Boston will be taking a purposeful step back. We've been talking about this for years. The CBA has been well known for years, and so there are penalties associated with being at certain levels, and we know that, Stevens acknowledged in his end-of-season press conference in Boston at the start of the week. You just weigh that, you weigh where we are, you weigh everything else, and you make those decisions. You have to have the clarity of a full season and the full playoffs and a couple good nights of sleep, and everybody gets in a room and put your heads together and figure out what's next. To this point in Stevens' tenure, the Celtics have never been in a place where they needed to readjust their roster based on salary restraints. The idea was always to buy more talent and leverage winning factors for better talent. That is why players like Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Aaron Nesmith, and Robert Williams III were leveraged in recent years. All of these separate moves ultimately paid off, as Stevens and the Celtics have a championship to show for it. This offseason, Stevens will need to get creative with how he adjusts the roster to fit Boston's new financial philosophy and a short life without Tatum. For starters, this isn't going to be a full-blown garage sale. Teams won't be able to approach Stevens and the Celtics like a pawn shop with discounted items, as one Western Conference executive joked. Boston still has one of the best rosters in the entire league, healthy or not, which is why there is value to be had in any potential trade scenarios they consider.